I just hit record and I'm letting another person in.
All right, I'd like to call the special meeting of the Germantown Central School District Board of Education via Zoom to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America
America
and to the
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. All right, just so everybody's aware, the meeting is being recorded. Okay, Superintendent, action item, budget presentation and recommendations to adopt the following resolution. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, so we placed another line-by-line budget on the website just for anyone who wants to look at it. And basically the budget presentation this evening is to convey to the board that as of today, Governor Cuomo has not given us any definite information about cuts in state aid for 2021. He has indicated that he's optimistic. Meanwhile, the comptroller has publicly stated that state aid decreases are coming. We know we're not really out of the woods until we are told that we're going to receive the revenues that are anticipated. And so for that reason, I am recommending to the Board of Education this evening that you adopt a revised spending plan. The spending plan, the line by line, which is you all have in your hands, is the same budget that was presented on April 22nd of 2020. The total amount from the cuts and reductions that I presented on May 7th have been added back into the budget. Hang on a second, I have to let somebody in. Please note that this new adoption, if the board chooses to do so this evening, will override last week's adoption that was done on May 13th. There are three major reasons why I'm making this recommendation. As stated previously, we do not have any definite guidance from the state regarding the amount of anticipated state aid that we will not receive, just general comments. The second reason is that the board can spend less than the voter-approved budget amount, but not more. Therefore, if we stay with the previously adopted budget and we learn that there are less reductions than the 25% that we estimated, we are not able to put those cuts back in because hopefully the voters will have passed the lesser amount. And lastly, as Donald pointed out last week, the lesser amount becomes a serious problem next year when we apply the tax levy limit, also known as the tax cap. I believe this plan is a prudent way to move forward in these challenging and unique times. But we have been cautioned and we have reached out for advice from several entities. We have been cautioned about reinstating positions before we receive the information about our state aid from New York State. And for that reason, I am not recommending that any positions or planned expenses be reinstated at this time. So the idea is the board, if we get the best news in the world that there are no reductions, we're right back where we were. If we get information that there are some reductions, the board will be able to look at the list of reductions and cuts that were made and prioritize as they add items back in. I do think this is a safer place for us to be in, and that is my recommendation. Would you like me to read the resolution?
Before we can discuss it, we need a resolution.
Whereas the superintendent of schools and business manager presented the proposed budget for the 2020-2021 school year during the regular and special meetings of the Board of Education on February 12th, 2020, April 8th, 2020, April 22nd, 2020, May 7th, 2020, May 13th, 2020, and May 19th, 2020. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the proposed 2020-2021 budget for $15,792,913, and be it further resolved that the date for the public hearing on the proposed budget for the 2020-2021 school year is scheduled to be conducted on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, at 6:00 p.m. via Zoom.
I need a motion?
I'll make it.
All right, Annie, second?
I'll second it.
All right, Donald, second. Okay, discussion.
I have a question.
Go
So
ahead, Heather.
I just want to clarify because there was a lot of stuff happening there. So we're revising the budget to the former amount, right? Before the cuts.
Yes.
We're not putting in the positions.
So the idea is that if you stay with the budget you adopted last week,
Mhm.
and we hear that, let's say there's a 10% cut, since the board cannot spend more money than the voters approve, that 15% of cuts cannot be put back into the budget. None of the 25% can be put back into the budget. But if you adopt this budget and we do not put the positions in, honestly, today, Governor Cuomo was asked this question at the very end of his press release about the upcoming cuts, and he indicated he thinks within the next couple weeks he will know. This way, once we are told if there are going to be reductions or not, I can just come to you with a resolution to put positions back in, to add back in some of the BOCES COSERs that we had eliminated. And the whole reason why this problem is happening is because in order to follow the timeline handed down to us by New York State for the voters to vote on the budget, we have to make decisions before we have the actual information regarding revenues. It is truly an impossible situation, in my opinion. So we're making the best decision based on all the information we have up till today. And we held off until today, hoping for more definitive information. But if we go beyond today, we are in danger of not having enough time of printing the ballots and mailing them to the voters in time for them to be returned by June 9th. We are right up against the end of that. So in this manner, if we vote, if the board votes and adopts this line-by-line spending plan, and the state does cut 25%, or worse yet, even a higher percent, the board can reduce additional, if it's higher, additional positions, and we we'll only spend the revenues that we receive. But at this point in time, since we don't know and we're still being told cuts are coming in a very general manner, it would not be prudent to immediately put those positions back in. I am hoping that over the next month or so, everything will be back to normal, but we will see.
Thank you. That helps me understand better. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a couple of things to clarify. When does this information, like generally speaking, come out for like our state run, state aid?
Usually the final state aid in the enacted budget is April 1st, and we received that. And then the law, due to the COVID-19
Right.
crisis, the law was created to allow reductions to be made after the enacted budget. And Dina, if you have more to add to that, feel free to do so. You
You're
are
muted.
That really sums it up. It's just we have different periods that the state is going to look at base the revenues that they're receiving to the state and base our cuts on that revenue that they're generating, or I should say lack of revenue that they're generating.
Okay. So then my other question is, I mean, if by chance, and this is my concern, is if we go by the end of the school week, go by June 30th, and we still don't have this information with the cuts in positions and all of that, you know, and trying to bring them back. What's the deal with health insurance and stuff like that? I mean, that's because it is health insurance running from July 1st.
Yes, ends June 30th.
June 30th would be the cutoff date.
I know the governor has one of his reduction dates, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dina, I think is June 30th.
Yes.
It's going to be very much like everything that's happened since March 18th, which is making decisions without all the information and pretty much going day to day with what we're told. I would like to think that some federal level decisions will have been made by then that may make it more clear. But the economy is in a crisis as well. And there's a lot of talk out there that even if we're in okay shape in time to start the school year, mid-year cuts are a possibility as well. Mid-year cuts would be very difficult because, as we were talking about, I think last week, once the program begins and we're in place, it is much more difficult to do any kind of reorganizing to minimize the impact on the students. The reductions that were presented last week were very thoughtfully developed. To obviously impact on the students still exists. It is a negative impact, any kind of reduction. But we were trying to make it so that it was in many areas and not just in a couple of areas. But basically we have to remain in compliance with the contracts between the district and the bargaining units, and it is a requirement to abide by those contracts. And therefore, we have done so, and we are in compliance. And I'm really hoping by June 30th, we will be able to let folks know that they're coming back. If not, we will cross that bridge and figure it out.
Because I have two concerns. It's that we have cut 2 full-time positions, not fill, you know, third one actually is, I shouldn't say, we cut 3 full-time positions, one of which is not filled for next year. And then 2 that are. I have 2 big concerns about how it is going to impact our students, both in high school, but my almost, you know, bigger concern is that we are coming off of a kindergarten class who has had two sections, and we are now going to put them into one section of first grade, having missed an entire, you know, almost 15 weeks of school. So that is something that I have a huge concern educationally. On the high school level, you know, I don't want to see any cuts there either, by any means. And I think that the phys ed position is, you know, very important. The science position is very important. The science position, you know, right now we don't have, you know, we won't have a person in there. So that one's, you know, a little easier to swallow. So when we're moving forward, I really think that our priority as a board is those 2 positions. That's
So I'd love to address that.
You know.
So it is not necessarily so that we're combining those 2 classes. That is one of several ways that we can address the needs of those students appropriately. We cannot assume those classes would not exceed the recommendations, because in my past experience, as soon as you make a plan such as that, which we could have done last year actually, guess what? Every kid that moves in the district goes in those little sections. So we have several ways to ensure those students' needs are met. As far as the high school, we absolutely have a plan of how the required courses for Regents Diploma and Advanced Regents Diploma will be offered to our students. We would not have eliminated that position unless we were sure that students would be able to achieve all the requirements for graduation. There is not a single reduction on that list that I would have recommended if it was not for the COVID emergency. Not a single one. Again, Germantown, if there was anything that could have been reduced, it happened in the 2008 to 2010 economic downturn. We do not have fluff here. We have an extremely efficiently run school program that does a fabulous job with the students. I would never have recommended reducing athletics, which many of our students, sometimes that's the way we get them here, the way we get them to try hard. Again, every single item on there is necessary. But if we are going to lose $918,000, it would be irresponsible for me to say, let's just call folks back. And what if we find out in 2 weeks, 25% is the reduction? What I'm hoping is to find out in 2 weeks that we are not losing state aid.
Yeah, I would just like to see that us hopefully by at least our June board meeting to have, you know, a definite plan of what we can do. And I know that, I mean, every school district in New York State is in this boat. We don't know.
Right.
And it's terrible. And it's a horrible situation for us to be in. And, you know, these are people.
Yes.
So, but that is just my feeling. I just wanted to put it out there. I really think that we need to look at, you know, the positions, and I understand the work that's gone into it. And I know that you've met with GTA and you've met with, you know, all of the bargaining units to try to work this out. And we are certainly never going to make everybody happy by any means. But I do really want to make sure that we focus on the education of kids. And, you know, we've cut programs, you know, in the sense of outside programs, you know, that might be something that we have to further look at as well.
So I would, my assumption is if a reduction comes to our attention that is less than 25%, that would be a public conversation. That would be a board conversation. I am not making assumptions, and it's going to be a really hard one. Again, I hope we get 0% reductions. That's an easy conversation where we say, put it all back in, reinstate. Again, we are required to remain in compliance with contracts. It would have been wonderful if we could have waited to give that information out, but we are.
No, I know. Yeah, I agree. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I would just say it sounds like this is by far the most flexible thing we can do, right? I mean, so to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, really. I mean, better this than getting locked in than the other one.
Oh, most definitely, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. But I really honestly think the federal government will come through. They're going to be playing games for another week or two, but it looks like they're heading that way.
I hope so.
I really do. They have to. Think about it. Otherwise, you got another 5 million people nationwide laid off, from teachers to police to first responders. It's just common sense. They can't let it happen. You know, we've got 30 million now unemployed. Going to have 40? You know, borrow more money, country. That's all. I mean, it's the only thing they can do. They're borrowing at 0%, so that's okay. So I think everybody have faith, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. The only thing we can do is hope, but it just makes sense. It really does.
And I think the priority needs to be bringing the teachers back before special programs.
I agree.
Oh, yeah, no question about that.
Agreed.
Happy teachers, happy children.
This is true. Okay. And every teacher I know wants to go back to work. So none of us want to be doing this. Me included. Okay. All right, any other discussion? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried? Okay. Is there anything else for the, good? We're good, Sue?
Thank you very much.
All right, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Make it.
Heather made it, second?
Second.
All right, Donald second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, everybody. I
Thank
appreciate
night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
it. All right, see you in a couple weeks.
Good night.